Thanks, Chandra, for letting me know. I forgot to connect the audio cable. That's how long it has been. So I've forgotten some of the basics. Anyway, I was just saying that I hope you had a good Thanksgiving weekend, as I did too. And I'll tell you a little bit more detail about my family vacation, just because of drawing some lessons from it, not because of just talking about just the vacation. So it turns out that the Thanksgiving time is an interesting time for our family because both of our sons, we only have two sons, were born around Thanksgiving. One a couple of days prior to it, and one couple of days later, 23rd and 27th. And then lo and behold, our first granddaughter was also born in that week, so on the 20th. So we have three family birthdays plus the Thanksgiving itself, all within 1 week. And we usually have several birthday parties and so on. Coupled with that, with the fact that my wife has a client for whom she designed a very elaborate vacation home in Hawaii on the Big Island, right on the coast. Beautiful, large home with 5 bedrooms and so on. So we've gone there a couple of times on the behest of the client. We don't really ask for it, but this year Pami's client really insisted that we use it. We haven't used it for 2-3 years. She says it's open for Thanksgiving. So we asked the kids and they said, this is one of the advantages of inviting them for a vacation in Hawaii. They all jump at it. So it was very nice. Not only did we have a family vacation, but we also had it at a very beautiful place in a very nice house there. So the thing I wanted to spend some time just talking about it is the real value of not having intense likes and dislikes. So Swami Viditatmananda also had been mentioning this for a long time. He's very good at pointing out life's lessons for really alleviating likes and dislikes. So the example he gave, which is very applicable to this 1 week that we spent, is that suppose you really want to go on a pleasure vacation, and you and your family, your wife or husband, get together and says, let's go there. Wouldn't it be fun if we went there? And then you book things and you fulfill the desires to go there. All of that happens. And the consequence of that is that your expectations are that we are going to have some pleasure during this trip. And chances are that things always go wrong. There is no question that these things are not, you don't get the right seat, you don't get the right car, the hotel is not very good, whatever it is, there's lots of problems that occur. And your sense of satisfaction from this trip, where you had set some expectations, because this is a pleasure cruise, or not a cruise, but a pleasure trip, falls down in your expectations. And you also can have fun, no question about that. But suppose you make a plan not for maximizing your fun, but looking at the overall requirements that dictate taking a vacation. So in our case, it was really my wife and my duty to invite the whole family, both our sons with their wives, and now we have 3 granddaughters, and Pami's mother also came with us, so we had 10 people. So we planned for it. But the whole planning and the expectations was really meant for the satisfaction of the family, not our own that we must have pleasure. Just the fact that we had a family there itself was really very satisfying to us. We didn't have to get the best seat. We didn't have to get the best car. We didn't have to get the best place, restaurant or anything. Just being there. So if you can, so this is what we call, if you can follow the prarabdha karma, because every situation is there, no question about it. I think if we could not have gone there, this bonding of the whole family, both sons and their wives and so on and so forth, would have been missing. So certainly there was some advantages in doing so, and we really had the duty to put it all together. But it wasn't really for, like, we did not visit any of the places other than just hiking here and there. And also when sometimes we didn't get what we want, I could see that the kids were getting upset. But my wife and I, we were saying, you know what, it's fine. Whatever happens, it's okay. We are very happy with it. And sometimes if there are conflicts, and so the older son and his wife would say, I think we want to go paddle boarding on the beach. And the younger son and his wife and the baby could not do that. So they were saying, no, we shouldn't do that. So we offered, for example, to take care of the baby, which would turn out to be a great pleasure because she got to know us better. She gave us wonderful smiles. And in fact, she learned to put her hands out and saying, here, grab me. What a lovely thing it was. And so the whole thing was just a lot of fun without needing to have fun. This is a very beautiful lesson, really, in life. I know many of you are not in that kind of a position. You have young kids, and you do want to really expose them to new experiences and so on. You should. So you should really have some expectations and your own expectations. But as you become older, like I have, then it is extraordinary fun not to do some things on your own likes and dislikes. And just be aware of whatever happens. If the kids said that, we need to go to a different restaurant, then I would make a reservation to a different restaurant. It's not as though I would shirk my duty and say, I don't care what happens. No. But my own expectations were not, my God, this is going to be a lot of fun. I am happy without going somewhere, not going somewhere. That's really that's the crux of it, honestly. That if you approach things in the right way, then things happen. And they unexpectedly happen. So I'll tell you couple of things where Ishvara just was winking at me. I could feel it. So on going there, I had a middle seat. I gave my seat to my mother-in-law, and we had booked her seat late. So I took her seat, which was a middle seat. And going on a 5-hour one, at my age, I need to go to the bathroom a couple of times, and you have to get everybody out. So I said, fine, it's okay, I can manage it. The two guys sitting on both sides of it turned out to be great friends. And they approached me, said, sir, would you mind if you go to the aisle seat and we sit together? It's like Bhagavan talking to me. I said, sure. So like that, there were unexpected, not something that I wanted to do, but some good things happened. Anyway, we were safe, we were healthy, and we are back. And I'm very happy to restart the classes with you. So I thought I'd just mention the attitude and the results of really subduing your likes and dislikes and saying whatever happens is very good. But you have to really discover that one is okay, the one as one is. You don't have to really do something very different for doing that. Discovery has to come. If you're bored with yourself and you haven't discovered even a little bit of the joy of Atma, then it is difficult to get rid of likes and dislikes. But as the inner light shines more and more, you don't need any external things in order for you to do so. Anyway, had a wonderful vacation. So I thought we would start a new topic today. And I wasn't sure what topic. I have a number of different ones. As you know, I've been talking about the chapter 11 and 15 of the Panchadashi. And that certainly is a huge topic, and we can take that up. Amit had asked if we can take Shvetashvatara Upanishad, and that was certainly in the back of my mind. And so I will certainly consider that. But in the meantime, something happened that just gave me a couple of ideas. So let me tell you what it was. I don't know if you attended the last online satsang, I think about a month ago. But during that satsang, one of the newer students who had not been with us for too long was asking a question about meditation and the importance of it, and sort of asking, how much should I meditate? How should I meditate? She was focused on meditation. Obviously, she enjoyed it. And so, if you recall my answer to it, it was somewhat jarring to her. Not jarring to her, but jarring in the sense that I took a very strong stand, and I said, for a newer student, you have to study a lot before you really, do meditation in a very serious manner. So in that sense, my answer was downplaying the importance of meditation at an early stage. And I let it go. A few days later, I got an email from a very experienced practitioner of yoga and pranayama, a teacher of yoga. And she wrote me a long email. There's no reason to mention her name. Is this a generic kind of a thing? And she said, I'm not sure that I agree with you that one should really postpone meditation. It should be done because I really depend a lot upon it. And I think that she was kind of not sure whether she agreed with my assumption or my saying that the meditation comes much later. You just study and so on and so forth. And if you recall, I had mentioned that the key word to use is Vichara, is thinking about the whole matter. And so I wrote back to her saying that I sympathize what you are saying, and if you enjoy meditation and if you are used to doing the Patanjali's type of meditation of just closing your eyes and eliminating as many thoughts as possible, savikalpa, nirvikalpa, and so on, you must enjoy it. I'm sure that you do. But our study of Vedanta has a slightly different view. So I didn't back down, even though I'm very sympathetic to what she's saying. And to a certain extent, I think many of the yoga students that came in rather in the last 2-3 years through Ramanand Patelji, I knew that this would become an issue sooner or later, so I was really not surprised at it. And so I can't really wishy-wash it. I have to just tell the way I feel. This is my sincere view based on my years of study of Swami Dayanandji and Swami Maheshanandji and so on, and my own ideas of how they are doing it and so on. And so I thought that this topic that we may spend a few classes on should be called the importance and necessity of Atma Vichara. Yeah, because I cannot just tell people, no, I don't agree with you, and just let it go. I have to explain why. And it's not possible to do that in just one single satsang or even one or two emails. So I thought we would devote a few classes to it. But just like we had our previous Vedantic Insight, which was Praptasya Praptihi, and then we took the example of the credit card, and then we culminated in an understanding of Kena Upanishad and so on. That was one topic. This topic will be revolving around the importance of Atma Vichara, importance of Vichara for Atma Vidya. So, in fact, the word Vichara, since we are taking this, we might as well explain the word Vichara. As you know, in Sanskrit, everything has a meaning. So, the Vichara comes from the dhatu, which is a verbal construct called char. And char means to move forward. And in fact, in Hindi and in other vernacular languages, we say that the cow is Gai char rahi hai. So char rahi hai means she is grabbing grass and moving forward, because you stay at a place, then you finish the grass in that area because you're still hungry, you're a big animal, and so then you move forward to a new place, and then this is called charna. So it's called char. Char means to move. It also comes from chal, chalna. Chalna and charna are very similar to each other. Ro and lo are interchangeable many times in Sanskritam. Now you add the prefix to it vi, which means visheshena charaha. By the way, another meaning to the word charaha is conduct. Conduct. In fact, I think in one of the classes I had mentioned this. Swami Maheswaranji uses the word acharaha, acharati. And so, for example, a guru is called one who not only teaches, but through the example of one's own life, conducts, explains the conduct. It's called acharaha. So they are related. So charaha means to go forward, to move, to conduct one's life. Vicharaha means, visheshena charaha, means that you don't do it randomly. Like, for example, a cow might do, because the cow doesn't really have a plan. It has a little bit of a plan. Okay, there's no grass here. It looks around and says, okay, let's go to a new area. So there's a little bit of plan. Not as much as the human being needs to do. The human needs to consciously think, relate various events to it, and see whether it fits a pattern or not. And if it doesn't, what pattern should I use? Like those kinds of analysis. So another meaning of the word vichara is called analysis. So when you analyze something, you have to really, look at all the pros and cons of it and then make a judgment out of it. So the word vichara and viveka are different, because viveka means to distinguish between two things. It's called viveka. Vichara means a general focus on a topic, but a focus for sure. And so in election time, there is vichara on the part of the people, saying which party should we do it. And so there has to be an analysis. People have to think about it. So this is what is called vichara. Atma vichara means that we need to really consciously think about who I am. Where am I coming from? What is my future? How can I conduct my life so that it is beneficial to me and to others? So this is what is called Atma Vichara. And so I thought that we will do this Atma Vichara topic, and part of that would also reveal the nature of Nididhyasanam, which is Atma Vichara, meditation based on Atma Vichara. It's a very important distinction between Dhyanam and Nididhyasanam, because in Nididhyasanam you focus on what is relatively clear to you. You've learned something and now you bring your focus on that aspects of it. This is Nididhyasanam. So that is what the Atma Vichara will lead to. Nididhyasanam. We'll come to that, all of that. Alright, so if the topic is Atma Vichara, I think we should begin with the basics. And the basic of Atma Vichara is to understand the difference between experience and knowledge. Difference between experience and knowledge. So knowledge means knowing something as it is called knowledge. If you see an apple and you treat it as an apple, then that is knowledge. But if you take a pear and you mistake it for an apple, that is not knowledge. This is knowledge. So this is called Tasmin Tadbuddhihi. Adi Shankara explains it. Tasmin Tadbuddhihi. Whatever the nature of something is, to take it as the nature of that is knowledge. But experience means just using your sense organs and the mind to look at it and to take it in is called experience. So the experience and knowledge are slightly different. And in fact, the reason I'm doing that is because in this topic, Swami Dayananji has explained this superbly. And in fact, this gives me a chance to plug this very important book, which I think you all know about and must have read. In case you have not done so, I really recommend that you do. This is a very important book. Swamiji himself used to recommend that along with Value of Values. Those are the two books that were his favorites. This particular book was published in 1989. We finished our course in 1982, so it took 7 more years for this book to be done. And there was a collaboration between Swamiji and one of our colleagues at Piercy, Barbara Thornton. So Barbara and her daughter Peggy were both students at Piercy with Swamiji. Barbara was a lawyer, is a lawyer. I don't know where she is now. I have not followed that. And when Arshavid... Okay, good. So when Arshavidya Peetham was formed with Swamiji as the president and a few other people, Barbara was the lawyer and I was the secretary. So I knew Barbara very well. Anyway, she has edited this book by Swamiji. And in this book, so anyway, I would say that this should be your regular reading, even if you're an experienced student, just to go through to see what the fundamental concepts are. Very well written. So, in the third chapter of this book, called The Informed Seeker, so that's the title of the chapter, Swamiji goes into a subheading saying distinguishing knowledge and experience. Very important, very, very, very well done. So much so that if you wouldn't mind, I'm just going to read a couple of long paragraphs from it. And so please make a note of it. I cannot do any better than that. So I thought I might as well just read verbatim what Swamiji has written. Experience can lead to knowledge, but the impression of experience need not be knowledge. Experience has to be assimilated in terms of knowledge. This is so because one may experience something and still be ignorant of it. Experience is one thing. Knowledge of what I have experienced is quite another. When I have knowledge, it includes perception. It includes experience. But experience does not have to include knowledge. For knowledge, what is experienced must be known for what it is. Experience may or may not coincide with knowledge. Knowledge is something that can both contradict experience and resolve the seeming contradictions in experience. This is the last part is really important one, very revealing. Again, knowledge is something that can both contradict experience and resolve the seeming contradictions in experience. There's another paragraph there, but anyway, now let me go to an example of this phenomena. So Swamiji says, for instance, the experience in most parts of the world is that the sun rises each day in the eastern sky and travels to the west where it sets. In the polar regions, on the other hand, at a particular time of the year, the experience is that the sun travels in a circle. Sunrise and sunset are not experienced. Which set of experience should be taken as real? Are both sets of experiences real? An analysis becomes necessary. Vichara becomes necessary. An enquiry must be made, taking into account all available factors. The questions are, is the experience of a sun that rises in the east and sets in the west fact or not? Is this observation true? What about the polar sun that can be seen traveling in a circle? How does this observation corresponding with facts? Experience 1 is the sun rises and sets, just the summary of it. Experience 2 is that the sun moves in a circle. Knowledge is, with respect to the earth, the sun is stationary, neither rising nor setting, moving in a circle. And then there's some further explanations. This is from this book called Introduction to Vedanta. So here's our situation. We every human being that is born has these contradictory experiences in our life. Either contradictory experiences within the same person or contradictory experiences between two separate people. What about their assertions? So let us look at the contradictions within the same person. Oftentimes I feel very happy. Many times I feel totally unhappy. Oftentimes I feel good about who I am. Many times I don't. During the day, the world seems troublesome to me. During the night, there is no trouble whatsoever. I am just peaceful by myself. Contradictory experiences. Within two people, similar situations occur. Even identical twins or brothers and sisters that are very, very similar to each other view the world very differently. One may be very happy with it, happy-go-lucky. The whole world doesn't bother that person. Another person may be very troubled. They both have the similar bodies. They both are the same mother and father. They both have similar minds. Their education level remains pretty much the same. And yet their outlook and how they look upon the life is totally different from each other. Why? Why does that occur? What's the explanation for it? Very similar to the case that in one case the sun behaves in one way, in the other case it behaves something completely differently. Are there two separate phenomena? Or there is something that allows me to reconcile the contradictory behavior of the sun in two cases, which it is, as you know, which is true. So, this being the case, an analysis is needed. An analysis, vichara, is needed. And I would just close that topic about a meditation without vichara. So let me contrast, if I may, the case of quietening your mind down and slowly become happy with yourself, culminating in something which is not easy to do but very satisfying, which is just being in a meditation as much as possible. So this is meditation without vichara. Meditation is an experience. The experience can be with knowledge or without knowledge. The experience may remain the same, but the knowledge will allow the experience to be interpreted properly. That the sun appears to rise is similar for somebody who doesn't know that it is not the sun rising but the earth sinking, moving. So for a knowledgeable person and an ignorant person, the experience remains the same. But in a knowledgeable person, it has a new meaning, truthful meaning to it. So in the case of meditation, one can visualize a meditation without having to learn about What is Atma? What is Anatma? What is Ishvara? What is Mithya? What is Satyam? All of that can be done. Yes, that experience is possible. Or you can have the similar experience where it all fits together very nicely. What is the difference? What happens in one case versus the other? So if I can draw. I was thinking about it in taking care of my 8-month-old granddaughter in Hawaii. Oftentimes, when their parents were busy or something like this, I could see this phenomena. So what I could see was that many times the baby was not happy. She was squirming and saying this, that, or the other. Either she had a wet diaper or she was hungry. So you have to figure, this is the thing, the child cannot tell you. You have to second guess from the symptoms what is wrong with the baby. We are very lucky that we have a very happy baby, and she doesn't cry until she has a real reason for it. And so we have to figure out what the reason is for her to be unhappy. And many times what would happen is that she would want to get milk again when in fact she just had it half hour to an hour ago, and you cannot do that over very, very frequently. You have to space it out. And yet she felt like doing something. So you know what? There is a alternative, and which is what is called a pacifier. You all know that. So this is the rubber a nipple, and instead of giving her milk from a bottle, she's no longer breastfed, she takes it from a bottle. Instead of giving her real milk, you give her a pacifier. And the result often is the same. The pacifier pacifies the child and stops the squirming and crying for a while. You cannot give the pacifier for 1 hour. You can give it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But then sooner or later you distract the person and you have to give her real milk. And that alone really pacifies her. So if I can draw this analogy, I was just thinking about it. To me, a meditation without vichara is a pacifier. It's a pacifier. Yes, it pacifies your mind and you really do feel good about it. But it does not last. Does not last. You feel like it's lasting more and more, and now it will just engulf you. All the wise people in Vedanta says that doesn't happen. You cannot have Jivan Mukti by just doing meditation without an analysis of it. Why not do the analysis? Why not make it real? Because a pacifier is just a rubber nipple. And yes, it gives you, the child, the experience that it desires, but it doesn't give the food that it needs. And the food comes from vichara. So I'll make that distinction because this was not easily understood by us throughout because we are all anxious and saying, why can't we do meditation? You can, but now I feel through this example, it's just a pacifier. It is not the real thing. Why is it just a pacifier and not the real thing? We will look into that in more detail. But I'm just giving you the parameters of of what this is. Okay, so that being the case, now let's shift the topic to something more technical and look at what causes us to be not totally satisfied with myself. In other words, what is the element of vichara? What vichara are you talking about? What should be the analysis? What thinking are you're talking about? So in looking at that, we start by saying that my mind can either conclude things factually or not factually. Right? In the case of the rising sun, it's very clear that you have a certain set of tools in your mind and your eyes, and you can conclude from those tools that the sun is definitely rising, because I can see it. And don't tell anybody, nobody should tell me that it is not rising. It is rising. I don't see the earth moving and the sun is moving. But this is not factual, because we can construct an event where the sun doesn't disappear at all, as Swamiji has pointed out. What then? Your experience will become moot. And so an analysis is necessary. In doing this analysis, what we find is, and this is what the fundamental Adhyasa Bhashya says in the Brahma Sutra that many of you are also attending. We just finished doing Adi Shankara's Adhyasa Bhashya, where he defines the word Adhyasa. And what it means is that without understanding the reality of who I am and so on, I make a mistake about things. Naturally, I was not, because Jnanam, ignorance is natural. Nobody is born with knowledge. We have obviously the consciousness which is above knowledge. We have that. We are that, but we don't have a knowledge of that consciousness. So we are born with the ignorance of that consciousness. So that being the case, our natural propensity is to make a mistake about things and about ourselves. So let's look into the technical analysis of how this happens. So there is a word called adhyasa that Adi Shankara uses. Adhyasa means an erroneous conclusion. So the definition of that is atasmin tad buddhihi. Atasmin means tad buddhihi, meaning something, a conclusion that this is like this when it is not like that, is called adhyasa. So if you take a pear to be an apple, this is adhyasa. You have to take an apple to be an apple, a pear to be pear. But if you take a pear to be an apple due to whatever reasons, they look alike, you're not close enough for you to look at the aroma, and so on, you conclude this is an apple. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. This is called adhyasa. Okay? This is called adhyasa. So for instance, we have talked about the rope and the snake. But the opposite of that is we've also talked about that, if you're just walking on the beach and you see a tin foil, shiny tin foil from a old cigarette case. It may look like silver to you, but it isn't. So that non-understanding that the tin is really tin, is not silver, is called adhyasa. So the word adhyasa, I'm just giving you, for those of you that want to know exactly how it is spelled in Sanskritam and also the transliteration in English, adhyasa. So now, if you take something to be different from what it is called adhyasa, as I've been saying now. There is a special form of adhyasa where you take yourself to be different than what you are. If you take a tin foil to be silver, then it is mere adhyasa. But if you take yourself to be something that you are not, there is a special subcategory of that which is called Tadatmya Adhyasa. It is not just Adhyasa, it is Tadatmya Adhyasa. So Tadatmyam means Tasya Atmyam, that my selfness, not selfless, but selfness, my ability to cognize who I am is based on something else. It's called Tadatmya Adhyasa. This is the one that we are going to study now, called Tadatmya Adhyasa. So the Tadatmya Adhyasa is one of three types. Right? One of three types. And this, by the way, was also presented briefly in the Drikdrishya Viveka on the eighth verse of Drikdrishya Viveka goes into this phenomena, exactly this phenomena. There, of course, it doesn't explain it. And I think when we took the Drikdrishya Viveka, we did go through an explanation of it. But in the sense of this Atma Vichara, let's go over that one more time. Okay? All right, so there are three types of, even before we go to the three types, Swami Maheshananji had pointed out that look at an example of the Tadatmya Adhyasa. Tadatmya Adhyasa is that you met a friend of yours who's very much into politics. He's a young person out of college, 22, 23, and he is a passionate follower of the Democratic Party. So much so that he goes to all the fundraisers for Democrats, and he spends a lot of time. He's passionate about it. And you saw him as a young Democrat. So he identified himself with the Democratic ideals, not the Republican ideals. You were separated for a long time, 15 years. And you met him when he was just chance to meet him somewhere when he in his late 30s. And you asked him, so, how are things? Where are you doing? Are you still very active in the Democratic Party? And he laughs at you and he says, oh no, I got disenchanted by the Democrats. That was a long time ago. So many things happen, and these guys are not thinking straight, and that's not what my life is about. As a youngster, I was all gung-ho, but as I grew up, I found that they are raising taxes. They are not competent enough. Yeah, you can talk about it, those kinds of things. He says, no, 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 no. I am now just an independent. I don't have any party affiliation. And sometimes I actually vote Republican. I don't have anything to do with Democrats anymore. This is called Tadatmya Adhyasa. How? Because at one stage you identified with something as being you. I am a Democratic supporter. But my status as a Democratic supporter, or as a Democrat, leave aside the word supporter. Yeah, that's not good. I'm a Democrat. I'm a die-hard Democrat. Is not permanent. Is not permanent. That's not who you are. In fact, when we were born, we are neither Democrats nor Republicans. We're just a baby. And then slowly, slowly, you start to identify with certain thoughts and certain ideas. And so you acquire an adhyasa that this is me. From now on, I'm going to be a Democrat. It's called Tadatmya Adhyasa. So now with that as an example of what Tadatmya Adhyasa is, let's look at the three types of Tadatmya Adhyasa. Very important really. This is something that we should really think about that. And the three types are Sahaja, Karmaja and Brahmaja. Sahaja Tadatmya Adhyasa, Karmaja Tadatmya Adhyasa and Brahmaja Tadatmya Adhyasa. If we go to that Drigdirsha Viveka, I believe it's verse number 8, you will see that these three. So let's look at each three of them. The first one is called Sahaja Tadatmya Adhyasa. So Sahaja means natural. Natural means it just happens by the very phenomena. And there is nothing to worry about that. There is nothing to correct it. It just happens. The worry part will come in the third one, which is Brahmaja. Brahmaja means Brahmam Janayati. Brahma means illusion. Some kind of a strange identification with something. Totally different, illusionary. Like, for example, electricity thinking that I am the appliance. It's an illusion. It can never be the appliance. It can infuse the appliance, but it cannot be the appliance. So that's called Brahmaja. We'll come to that. Then Karmaja means one which is topical to where you are today because of your karma, called Karmaja. But let's go back to the first one, which is called Sahaja. So Sahaja Tadatmya Adhyasa means one which is natural and there is nothing much to do about it except to know about it. So there are two examples of this. Both are very important and really revealing if you think about it. Okay? So, one example that Swami Maheshananji gave, which is new, I had not seen that example before. He says that suppose you go to a house and there is a single socket of electricity. We don't have two sockets of electricity. You know, most of the time in our houses we have two sockets, right? On one thing you can plug the fan, on the second one you can plug the light, and both of them are working. But in this house, you have only a single socket, some old house. And there is a switch for that socket. Now, what you do is, if it doesn't have a dual socket, you go to the shop and buy a splitter, where you put a plug into the socket, and on the other side now becomes two sockets. And now you can put a fan in and a light in. Okay? All right. So suppose you invite somebody, or a youngster who doesn't know, an ignorant person. When they want to switch off, and they are sitting there in the evening in the room, and it's a very hot day, so you have the fan on, and you also have the light on because you're reading. Now you want to go to bed, and you want to turn the light off. You switch it off. Not only the light turns off, the fan also turns off. So he says, this is very troublesome. I cannot turn the fan off. He doesn't know that there is a dual socket behind the sofa set somewhere. Doesn't know that Viveka is not there. So he tries it a couple of times, and either both turn on or both turn off. This is called Sahaja Tadatmya. Except if, and so how do you resolve this? What you need to do is to have the Viveka. Because you see a wire coming out of the single socket, disappearing behind the sofa. So you trace it, and you go to the behind the sofa, and there you see the splitter. So there you take off the light only, but not the fan. Now you are in good shape. But unless you know this, you're frustrated, because it's too hot to sleep, as it is in the night time in India. And so you cannot want to switch off the fan, and yet the light also comes on. It's frustrating. This is very interesting. This is what all the acharyas say, that something similar, if we don't understand how the world operates, if we do not see the handiwork of Ishvara, the same world becomes a burden to us. Same experiences. Why? Because I want to switch it off, but everything switches off. And I don't want everything to be switched off. I just want the pleasant thing to continue and the unpleasant thing to disappear. Acharyas say that if you can figure out, there's various ways to look at it. One of the ways is that if you could defang it, and going back to the example in Hawaii, I could see that many times the kids were upset because they wanted to do something and they could not do it because either the food was not proper or it was too hot or something, and they would say, wow, there must be something better. So the world was giving them some problems. But if you look upon the world as something which is incapable of giving you the problems, if you yourself are happy with yourself, I had to pretend that I'm upset, but I was not. I was happy with how the things are going. If we go someplace, we go someplace. If we don't want to go someplace, I'm okay with that too. So the whole world can be, the same world can give you a lot of trouble, and the same world can give you a lot of happiness. And this discovery comes from the presence of Ishvara, really speaking, as we will discuss it in more detail. So anyway, this example of Sahaja Tadatmyam means you don't And you do not do the Viveka about how the fan and the light are plugged in different sockets, not in the same socket. This is one example. I personally think this is what I grew up with Swami Dayanandji and so on. The other example is even more poignant. The other example is if you are looking at yourself, and Swami Maheshananji also gives this example, it's not as though he does not. But this one is, to me, something I can hang my hat on. And that is, if you're looking at the mirror, and you're looking at both yourself, you can feel yourself, as well as you're looking at the mirror. It is called Sahaja Tadatmya Adhyasa. The mirror reflection is not a problem for you. Why is it not the problem? Because it is of a lesser reality than yourself. And if both of them exist at the same time, it's no problem. I don't go to the world and I don't go to the mirror and say, I don't want my reflection. If you don't want your reflection, close your eyes. But as long as the mirror is there, there is a second you. The second you should not really cause you any problems. You should not be afraid of it. You should not compete with it. You should not be jealous of it. In fact, your reflection gives you some feedback to you. When I look at myself in the mirror, I realize how old I'm getting. My gosh, I had no idea. I don't feel old. I feel the same way as I was 20, 30, 40 years ago. But the mirror says, no. You look, or a picture. Sometimes we got some pictures done. And you look at the picture and it says, oh my God, is this the way I look now? But the reflection gives no problems. So there is a certain duality to it, which is natural. You see, this is the point. The point is that there is a duality which is not a real duality. This is what is called Sahaja Tadatmya. And in fact, this is exactly what we were studying in the Kena Upanishad. Pratibodha Viditam Matam. That you can see that at any point in your life, your thoughts, the picture of the whole world, your thoughts are your reflection. So you see this point? This is a very important point in this context. And the point is that Pratibodha Viditam Matam. If you have to look at yourself, all you need to do is to view the world as your reflection. The world means your thoughts. That's what it is. There is no word other than the thoughts. Because as soon as the thoughts stop in deep sleep, the world also disappears. So it's very clear, it is really the movement of the mind that gives you a semblance of some reality of the world. And that seeming reality of the world shows yourself as an unchanging, always present consciousness. You are the consciousness which is being reflected in your thoughts. So there is a duality. You see, this is the point. See this point. There is a duality which, if properly understood, should not giving you any problems because it is Sahaja Tadatmyam. See, that's the thing. It is a Sahaja Tadatmyam Adhyasa. It will always be there. So why bother about it? The only reason we bother about it is because I have a wrong impression of who I am. If I knew that I was really in the unchanging, never born Atma, which is in fact giving rise to this whole reflection of the world, where is the problem? So this is the first of the three Tadatmya Adhyasa, which is called Sahaja Tadatmya Adhyasa. And so just like the reflection in the mirror causes no problem. In fact, it is giving you a method to see yourself. So when you see your thoughts and you see that those are the reflections of your own mind, then you're never away from yourself. Wherever you are, yatra yatra manojati yati, tatra tatra samadhaya, drikdrishya viveka. So this would be the meditation with knowledge, an experience with knowledge. And if done properly, it frees you. You don't need to do any special meditation. So anyway, we will stop at this point and take up the other two, which is Karmajam or Karmaja Tadatmya and Bhrantija Padatmya next time. So with that, we start a new topic, which is Atma Vichara, the necessity for it, the importance of it, and the nature of Atma Vichara. And with that, I close the class. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Oh, nice to see you all. I see Krishna Birru there. I've not seen you on these classes before. Larry Lopez and a few other people as well. So nice to see you all. And yes, that's the name of the book, is Introduction to Vedanta. And I think it's available. I don't know, somebody was telling me that it's out of print. I'm not sure. Maybe it's in the email, in the audio or some, not audio, but in the electronic version of it that may be possible to get. I don't know. I'm not sure of it. But it's a must-have kind of a book. And so nice to see you all back. And I will wait for, sorry about the no sound in the beginning. All right, if there's no other questions, then we will close the class and I'll hope to see you next week. Hari Om.